Aarushi Mehta dreamed of love, not realizing she had fallen for a man whose charm hid monsters. And when Rafiq Al Mansoor, Dubai's most powerful nightclub owner, was finally cornered, her disappearance had already become the city's darkest secret. Dubai's nightlife sparkled like a diamond in the desert, drawing the rich, the powerful, and the dreamers who chased fame under neon lights. Every evening, the city's heartbeat pulsed through its nightclubs, where music drowned worries and champagne disguised secrets. Among the empire of flashing lights and velvet ropes stood Club Mirage, the most exclusive nightclub in downtown Dubai. Its owner, Rafiq Al Mansoor, was a man people admired and feared at the same time. Born into money but made rich through charm and cunning, Rafiq was known for his calm smile and unpredictable temper. Behind his success lay stories of betrayal, bribery, and broken promises, but no one dared question him. He hosted the most extravagant parties, filled with celebrities, models, and investors. Men wanted to be him, women wanted to be with him, and everyone wanted to be invited. But Rafiq's world was a stage built on control. Every friend, every relationship, every business deal, nothing happened without his permission. Beneath the surface of glamour, he hid a ruthless ambition and a fear of losing power. On one of those glittering nights, as lights shimmered across glass walls and music echoed through the crowd, a new face entered his world. Aarushi Mehta, a 26-year-old Indian influencer with striking eyes and quiet confidence, walked into Club Mirage for a fashion afterparty. She didn't belong to this world of excess, yet she moved through it with grace. Rafiq noticed her immediately, not just because of her beauty, but because she didn't seem impressed by the luxury around her. For the first time in years, the king of Dubai nightlife found himself curious, and curiosity was the one emotion he could never control. It was the beginning of something neither of them could escape. Their paths crossed again a week later when Aarushi was invited to host another event at Club Mirage. This time, Rafiq made sure to speak with her personally, offering her a private tour of his exclusive VIP section. Aarushi had heard stories about his charm and arrogance, but face-to-face, he seemed calm, collected, and dangerously persuasive. Within days, he began sending her gifts, designer handbags, diamond bracelets, and invitations to yacht parties that felt more like royal gatherings than celebrations. Aarushi, who had come to Dubai with modest dreams, found herself swept into a life she had only seen in magazines. Soon, her social media followers noticed the change. Her posts shifted from street-style photos to luxury cars, candlelit dinners, and five-star resorts. She told herself it was love, not money, that tied her to Rafiq. But deep down, she sensed that everything he offered came with an invisible price. Rafiq had a way of keeping people close yet distant, like pieces on a chessboard that moved only when he allowed it. While the world saw them as an enviable couple, their relationship existed mostly in private. Rafiq never took her to public events or introduced her to his business circle. Aarushi tried not to question it, convincing herself that his need for privacy was genuine. But she couldn't ignore how his staff avoided looking at her, or how he sometimes disappeared for days without explanation. Despite the red flags, she stayed, drawn to his power, his promises, and the illusion of being chosen. In the city of dreams, Aarushi believed she had found her destiny. But beneath the surface of glamour, the foundation of their romance was already beginning to crack, and she had no idea how far that darkness would reach. Weeks turned into months, and what began as a secret thrill soon became an emotional storm. Aarushi started noticing Rafiq's growing distance. His messages became shorter, his visits less frequent, and his once charming tone now sounded impatient. She tried to ignore the signs, believing he was busy with business deals and club management. But deep down, she felt something changing. It was around this time that her world shifted completely. Aarushi found out she was pregnant. The test strip trembled in her hand as reality sank in. Fear and joy collided inside her. She imagined Rafiq's face lighting up with surprise and love, but that dream would vanish as quickly as it formed. When she finally told him, his expression froze. Instead of happiness, there was silence, followed by cold calculation. He told her not to mention it to anyone, not even her friends. He said it would ruin everything if people found out. Aarushi tried to reason with him, reminding him that their baby was proof of their bond, but Rafiq only promised to handle it in time. Those words echoed in her mind for days, filling her with dread. She began staying home more often, avoiding social gatherings and online posts. Her once bright smile disappeared, replaced by worry. Friends noticed her absence, but Aarushi offered vague excuses about being unwell. Nights felt longer, and fear crept into her dreams. She knew Rafiq's world was dangerous. Rumors about his temper, his dealings, and his control circulated quietly among those who knew him. Yet, she still believed he would change, that love could soften him. But as her pregnancy progressed, Rafiq's indifference grew colder, and Aarushi began to realize that the man she trusted with her future might also be capable of destroying it. By the 4th month of her pregnancy, Arushi's patience began to break. The silence from Rafiq had turned unbearable. He no longer visited her apartment, and his calls became rare. When she managed to reach him, his answers were curt, his tone sharp, as if she were a burden he wanted to forget. Each night, she stared at her reflection, one hand resting on her growing stomach, wondering why love had turned into something so cold. She had sacrificed everything for him, her independence, her reputation, her peace of mind, and now she was alone in a foreign city with a secret too heavy to carry. Desperation slowly replaced fear. Aarushi decided she wouldn't stay silent any longer. She began sending Rafiq messages, demanding marriage and recognition. She told him she would go public with their relationship if he refused to take responsibility. Friends later said she seemed determined but terrified, aware that Rafiq was not the kind of man who accepted threats easily. Still, she believed he might come to his senses once he realized what he stood to lose. One late evening, witnesses claimed to have seen Aarushi waiting outside Club Mirage. Security footage later confirmed it. She stood near the entrance, dressed simply, her face pale but resolute. When Rafiq arrived, they saw him arguing with her near his car, his gestures aggressive, his voice raised. Within minutes, his bodyguards intervened, escorting her away from the premises. That moment would become the last verified sighting of Aarushi Mehta. No one knew where she went after that night. Some thought she left Dubai to escape humiliation. Others believed Rafiq had silenced her for good. But for those who truly knew her, the idea of her vanishing without a trace didn't make sense. Something darker had begun. Days passed after the confrontation outside Club Mirage, and Arushi's silence became deafening. Her phone stopped ringing. Her WhatsApp last seen never changed, and her apartment remained dark. At first, her friends thought she needed space, but as days turned into weeks, concern turned into fear. Her landlord mentioned that she hadn't paid her rent, and the neighbors hadn't seen her in days. The only clue was her car, parked exactly where she had left it, a quiet reminder that something wasn't right. Her family in Mumbai grew increasingly anxious when she missed their weekly video call. Arushi's mother called repeatedly, but every attempt went unanswered. After a week of no response, her brother decided to contact Dubai authorities to file a missing person report. What followed was confusion and slow action. Dubai police treated it as a voluntary disappearance, suggesting she might have left the country. But her passport was still in her apartment drawer, along with her pregnancy medical reports and an unopened letter she had written to Rafiq. Rafiq, when questioned, appeared calm. He claimed he hadn't seen Aarushi for weeks and dismissed the rumors about their relationship as baseless gossip. Publicly, he said she was just a fan who had misinterpreted their friendship. But behind the scenes, whispers spread among his employees. Some said they saw him furious days before she disappeared, breaking glasses and shouting about a problem that needed to be fixed. Still, no one dared to speak out openly. Arushi's social media accounts were deleted soon after, wiping away traces of her life. To the world, she had simply vanished. But those who loved her knew Aarushi hadn't left by choice. Something, or someone, had made sure her story ended in silence. Arushi's brother, Arnav Mehta, refused to accept the claim that his sister had left voluntarily. Frustrated by the slow response from the authorities, he flew to Dubai himself. With limited contacts and no official support, he decided to hire a private investigator named Farid Qureshi, a former police officer known for taking difficult cases others avoided. Farid began by retracing Arushi's last known movements, speaking to her building's security guards, neighbors, and clinic staff. Slowly, fragments of her final days began to form a chilling picture. The building's CCTV showed Aarushi leaving her apartment one evening around 10:40 p.m., dressed casually and carrying a small suitcase. Her face looked tense, her movements hurried. Outside, a black SUV waited at the curb. The license plate matched one registered to one of Rafiq's companies. After stepping into the vehicle, she was never seen again. When Farid asked Rafiq's office about the car, they denied any connection, claiming it had been sold months earlier. But the vehicle's records told another story. It was still active and in use. Farid dug deeper into Aarushi's phone records and found her last call had been made to an unlisted number tied to a disposable SIM card. It lasted less than 2 minutes. That same night, her phone signal went dead near the outskirts of the city, close to the desert road leading toward Al-Khazna. Farid visited the area, where he found tire marks and faint traces of ash, though nothing conclusive. The pattern was clear. Someone had planned her disappearance carefully. Farid felt a familiar unease creeping in, the sense that he was investigating something much bigger than a missing woman. Somewhere beneath the glittering surface of Dubai's nightlife, a dangerous secret was buried. Farid's investigation led him deeper into the desert outskirts of Dubai, where few people ever ventured. His search through property records uncovered a secluded villa registered under a fake name, but linked to one of Rafiq's shell companies. The villa, surrounded by tall walls and guarded gates, stood alone in silence. Locals from a nearby village whispered that expensive cars often arrived there late at night, and that sometimes they heard loud arguments followed by long stretches of eerie quiet. Among the sightings, one detail stood out: a woman with long dark hair who looked frightened and rarely spoke to anyone. Her description matched Aarushi. Farid contacted the authorities and managed to obtain a warrant to inspect the property. When investigators entered the villa, they found no one inside. The rooms were mostly empty except for a few discarded clothes, a half-burned candle, and a medical appointment slip from a Dubai clinic bearing Aarushi's name. It was dated just 2 days before she vanished. In a corner of one room, Farid noticed faint stains on the marble floor that appeared hastily cleaned, along with traces of sand on a rug, as if someone had been dragged. Further searching revealed another disturbing clue: a torn photograph showing Rafiq and Aarushi together at what looked like a private party. The discovery directly contradicted Rafiq's earlier denial of their relationship. Yet despite the evidence, there was still no sign of Aarushi herself. The villa seemed frozen in time, a haunting shell that hid more than it revealed. As Farid stood in the empty hallways, the air felt heavy, as though the walls themselves remembered something terrible. The closer he got to the truth, the clearer it became. Aarushi hadn't simply disappeared. She had been erased. As Farid continued piecing together the puzzle, a new and unexpected lead surfaced. A source from Dubai's business circles hinted that Rafiq had been locked in a bitter rivalry with another nightclub owner, Adnan Malik. Adnan had recently opened a chain of luxury clubs that began attracting Rafiq's elite clients. Behind the scenes, both men had been engaged in an ugly war, spreading rumors, bribing officials, and stealing staff from each other. But there was more to it than competition. Adnan claimed to possess information that could destroy Rafiq's carefully built image, and whispers suggested that information involved Aarushi. Farid tracked down one of Adnan's former managers, who admitted off the record that Adnan had once boasted about having proof of Rafiq's secret affair with a pregnant woman. Adnan allegedly planned to leak the story to the media, hoping to ruin Rafiq's reputation and gain control over his business empire. However, before he could act, Aarushi vanished. The timing was too precise to be coincidence. It became clear to Farid that Aarushi's disappearance was not just a personal tragedy. It was part of a larger power struggle. Someone had silenced her to protect powerful interests. But who exactly had ordered it remained uncertain. Some clues pointed to Rafiq's loyal bodyguards, others to hired professionals who had been paid to clean up problems. Farid's investigation began attracting unwanted attention. Strange cars started following him at night, and anonymous messages warned him to stop digging. Yet, he refused to give up. Aarushi's case had crossed the line from mystery to danger. Somewhere between the rivalry, betrayal, and money, a pregnant woman had paid the ultimate price, and Farid was determined to uncover the truth, even if it cost him everything. 2 months after Aarushi's disappearance, the investigation took a grim turn. Construction workers near an abandoned desert property reported finding a bloodstained scarf partially buried in the sand. The pattern and color were identical to one Aarushi had often worn in her photos. The item was handed over to authorities, and DNA testing later confirmed what everyone feared. The blood belonged to Aarushi Mehta. The discovery transformed the case from a missing persons search into a potential homicide investigation. Dubai's media picked up the story, and soon it became the talk of the city. People whispered about the nightclub king and his vanished girlfriend, but few dared to speak publicly. When questioned again, Rafiq maintained his innocence, calling the allegations part of a campaign to destroy his business. He claimed the scarf was planted to frame him and accused his rival Adnan of staging evidence. But as police dug deeper, inconsistencies began to appear. His phone records showed he had been near the desert villa the same night Aarushi's phone last pinged there. Additionally, security staff admitted that some surveillance footage from that night had mysteriously gone missing. The authorities expanded their search around the site, uncovering a shallow pit filled with burned debris, ashes of what seemed like clothing, personal items, and fragments of a mobile phone. Though no body was found, the forensic evidence suggested an attempt to destroy all traces. The public grew divided. Some believed Rafiq was guilty. Others thought he was being framed by enemies in the business world. Meanwhile, Aarushi's family clung to fading hope that she might still be alive somewhere. But Farid knew what the clues truly meant. He wasn't looking for a missing woman anymore. He was chasing the cover-up of a murder. Just when the case seemed to be losing momentum, a shocking breakthrough emerged. A former driver who had worked for Rafiq came forward, contacting Farid anonymously. The man sounded nervous, his voice trembling as he agreed to meet only in a crowded cafe. There, he revealed a story that chilled Farid to the core. On the night Aarushi vanished, the driver claimed he was instructed to deliver a large suitcase to Rafiq's private desert villa. He said it was unusual because Rafiq rarely called him personally for such tasks. When he arrived at the club to collect the suitcase, two of Rafiq's bodyguards were waiting, visibly tense. They loaded the case into the trunk and warned him not to open it. The driver described hearing faint sounds from inside during the drive, soft, muffled noises like someone trying to speak, but unable to. He didn't dare stop, afraid of what he might discover. When he reached the villa, he was told to leave the suitcase in a back room and wait outside. Hours later, Rafiq himself appeared, his clothes slightly disheveled, his tone calm but cold. He ordered the driver to help carry several heavy bags to the backyard, where other men were already digging. The next morning, he was told to take the ashes of burned waste and scatter them across a construction site near Al-Khazna. The man said he had lived in fear ever since, haunted by guilt. Farid recorded his statement and immediately took it to the authorities. For the first time, there was a direct account linking Rafiq to Aarushi's disappearance. The testimony reignited public outrage and pushed the investigation into overdrive. What had once seemed like rumor now sounded terrifyingly real. With the driver's testimony, the walls around Rafiq's empire began to collapse. The Dubai authorities reopened the case with renewed urgency, raiding his properties, seizing his electronic records, and questioning his closest associates. For years, Rafiq had operated untouchable, protected by his wealth and influence. But now every secret he had buried began surfacing. Investigators found multiple offshore bank accounts linked to suspicious transfers, large payments made just days after Aarushi's disappearance. Some of the transactions led to companies specializing in private security, the same organizations rumored to handle illegal cleanups for wealthy clients. As pressure mounted, several of Rafiq's employees started cooperating in exchange for leniency. One of his former managers confessed that he was ordered to delete hours of CCTV footage from Club Mirage the night Aarushi vanished. Another admitted to booking flights for Rafiq's associates immediately after the scandal broke. The evidence of a cover-up grew undeniable. Public anger exploded across social media, with thousands demanding justice for Aarushi. News outlets ran continuous coverage, branding Rafiq, the nightclub king, with a dark secret. His empire crumbled overnight. Investors withdrew, the club was shut down, and luxury cars were seized from his mansion. Finally, after weeks of mounting evidence, Rafiq was arrested at a private airport while allegedly preparing to flee the country. calm and expressionless. He offered no resistance as he was handcuffed and taken into custody. The once celebrated face of Dubai's nightlife stood exposed before the world. A man who had everything yet lost it all in an attempt to hide one unforgivable truth. For Aarushi's family, the arrest offered a small piece of justice, but Farid knew this was not the end. The truth was only partly revealed, and the full horror was yet to come. Years passed, but the mystery surrounding Aarushi Mehta's disappearance never truly faded. Despite Rafiq's arrest, the case dragged through endless hearings, with his defense team using money and influence to delay the trial. No body was ever found, leaving the charges uncertain. Some witnesses retracted their statements, claiming they had been threatened. The driver who had once come forward fled Dubai soon after, his whereabouts unknown. The villa in the desert was demolished quietly, as if erasing the last trace of what had happened there. Slowly, the story that once shocked the nation began to sink beneath new headlines, becoming another unresolved shadow in Dubai's history. For Aarushi's family, closure never came. Her mother still kept her daughter's old clothes folded neatly in a trunk, refusing to believe she was gone. Every year, they held a small memorial in Mumbai, lighting candles and praying that her soul found peace. Online, true crime enthusiasts kept the story alive, piecing together theories. Some believed she had been killed, others whispered she had been smuggled out of the country. None of the theories could fill the silence she left behind. Rafiq remained imprisoned while awaiting a final verdict, but even behind bars, he never confessed. His expression stayed cold, his words calculated, insisting he had been framed. Yet, those who visited the desert near where the villa once stood claimed strange things. Locals spoke of soft cries carried by the wind at night, and shadows moving when no one was there. Whether it was guilt, grief, or something supernatural, no one knew. But one thing was certain: the story of Aarushi Mehta, the pregnant Indian woman who vanished after demanding justice, would forever haunt Dubai's golden skyline, a chilling reminder of the secrets power can bury.